Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Bob Ross and the Art of Guitar. The first thing that I'd like to say is thank you so much for the support on last week's video where I went through Stella by Starlight. Seems like the response was great. If there's any follow-up questions to that video, please make sure to leave a comment below that video and let me know if there's something that didn't make sense, or just reach out to me, send me a message. That way I know if there's anything that you're struggling with on the tune and you'd like some help with that, or you're just not sure, if there's something I talked about and it didn't quite click, just let me know, send me a message. So for this week's video, I opened up with a little jam on D minor. Now, one of the things that happens from time to time is we play tunes, and it could be in a rock context, a fusion, even jazz-based, where you have a situation where you have a chord. It's like static harmony. You got no movement. So you're left with this thought of, well, what am I supposed to do over just a one-chord vamp? How am I supposed to accommodate that? Or if you approach a section in the tune where you just pedal on one chord. So the question is, how do you approach a tune where you have either a chord that sits for a long period of time? Maybe it's only a one chord vamp kind of tune, How do you approach that? And there's several ways that you can approach it. But in today's video, I'm going to discuss using diatonic triads. So in this particular vamp, what I used was D minor. Now, if you've ever played, which I'm sure you have, the tune So What, there's quite a bit of time where you're sitting on D minor, and then you move to E flat, you modulate, and then you come back down into D minor. But there's this long period of time, and you're like, well, what do I do to build interest in this? So diatonic triads can help a lot with this. So the very first step that you need to do in order to secure a good feeling of being able to execute these over a vamp and use these is to just go through and find what are your diatonic triads. Now, I know that there's a lot of different approaches to seeing the fretboard out there. My approach is using the 5 shapes, which is similar to the cage system, except I see it a little bit different. If you're curious in how I see that, where I'm coming from, go to the link below where you see a link for lessons on musiclessons.com, and I cover that. You could also send a message to me or just ask and leave comments below as well. But what I'm going to do is base it here, and I really encourage you to go throughout the fretboard and find these diatonic triads, but I'm going to go right here into what would be 5th position, okay? So what I'm looking at is the D minor. I'm seeing it as a Dorian sound. So what I'm going to use is shape 6 in the key of C. And these are the notes that this is where I'm going to pull the triads from, okay? So diatonic, in case you didn't know, means that it derives from the key center that you're in. It's diatonic to that key. So if we look at the key of C, we have a C major arpeggio, a D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, and B diminished. Okay? So the lowest point that I can start on this, and I'm going to use all these triads, I'm going to start with the roots. Okay? So what you're going to have is an A minor, and we're only going to break it into little sections. You can continue that arpeggio all the way up, but we're just going to break it down into just small 3-note segments. So you have an A minor, A C E, B diminished, B D F, C E G for your C major, D F A, E G B, F A C, G B D, A C E, B D F again, C E G, D F A, E G B, F A C. Now you could continue to go, like I said, you want to go throughout the fretboard and make sure you can do this. But let's stay to this one area. So one of the things that I would encourage you to do first in trying to apply these is just to go through and make sure that you can play these in an ascending fashion. So meaning that you start with the lower note and you ascend and you keep going right up through your triads doing that. Now, once you're able to do that, then what I would do is I would go back and I say, okay, well, what else can I do? I can do a descending move. So instead of A, C, E, what happens if you start with E first? Right, now I'm going to the B diminished. So let's go back to that. Right. You could also do ascending, descending. So you have A, C, E for your first triad. Then you're going to go to the B, D, F, but you're going to go backwards. You're going to start with the fifth of that first. So you have A, C, E, then F, D, B. Then you're going to go to a descending, ascending. So once you're able to do that, then you have some options there, because you're more familiar with it. So when you put on the, and I would encourage using a backing track, you can start going through and just break it up. Don't feel like you have to run it as an exercise of going through your triads, although that is helpful. When you play over the backing track, just think about, well, what can I do? I can start with, know that D minor is where your home key is. That's where you need to be. So know that if you keep going back to a D, that's going to center, this pitch collection, this series of notes. It's going to center it back. But you also have the F and the A in there too, right? So if you hit those, you're really going to outline the basis of that harmony at just D minor. But while you're sitting there in that static harmony, right, you're coming up with little ways to go about getting up the fretboard. So mix it up. Put some space in there. Think about some other rhythms that you could use in order to create interest in this so it doesn't sound just like an exercise. So what you heard me do in the video in the beginning is I would go through and I was using those triads. I was using those starting with the root, but then I also would mix it up along the way too. So another step is once you get familiar with that is to go through and do inversions of these as well. And when you do that type of practice where you're recognizing these triads, then what happens is you don't have to worry about going across the fretboard and trying to find all these different spots to start your triads, right? So think for a minute this. What if I wanted to use a D minor in the beginning? Well, if I know the inversion of an F triad, F major, I could go right there and grab that. So D minor, F major. Here's E minor, right? Here's a G major. Back to the D minor, C major, A minor, right? And then I could use an inversion of where I have a G major. So I'm getting all these different types of inversions, which helps so I don't always have to sound like I'm starting roots. But I can tell you that if you do go through and you just have this kind of a static harmony and you're building that, it sounds like you're leading to somewhere. It really builds that momentum. So I like to use that in order to create some sort of emotion or movement, and then at that point I can use that as a stepping stone into playing outside of the key. So, I hope that helps, guys. If you have any questions about anything that I talked about today, please leave a comment below or send me a message. Also, please don't forget to subscribe. That way you know when I'm releasing these videos and you don't have to search around and hope that it's there. So thanks again for watching, guys. Thanks for all your support. Don't forget to subscribe, and I hope to see you soon.